Classic Morgan. Classic Morgan. Alrighty. Hello YouTube, hello Facebook, hello the world. My name is Morgan Gavin, and with me is the great, the mighty, the one and only Maximiser, who has gone through several iterations on Twitter because apparently weirdness happens. So he came up with the great and awesome idea of debating me on Donald Trump, and I'm assuming that this is going to be turned into some kind of beta thing where I end up shouting, bursting a blood vessel, and I, end up losing a testicle because of how much rage. So, sounds like fun.
That would be bad.
Yeah, are you sure it would make for a great video?
That's true.
Alright, so let's cover the basics of Donald Trump. Before he decided to run for president, there was this list of the 13 times that he absolutely failed. Selling steaks, making a game, making an app. Then there were the multiple attempts at airlines. I think the clothing line was great up until the whole campaign part. Then Macy's pulled his clothing line, and that, I'm sure that wouldn't hurt him. A bunch of his businesses buildings have taken their names off, taken his name off their building because multiple complaints from the tenant. There were allegations of sexual harassment, as well as pseudopedophilia, in which he went into a Miss Teen USA's dressing room while she was still naked. And this girl happened to be anywhere between 12 to 15 years old, and he pointed right at her and he said, in 10 years time, that woman will be dating me. So that's kind of indirect pseudopedophilia because that's making an assumption early on. That's kind of creepy. Also, there was the grab him by the pussy comment, which was recorded by Access Hollywood, which resulted in the firing of one of their anchors. There was the whole racist comment about building the wall because Mexico was sending all their criminals, rapists, and drug mules over. And then, as a caveat, he was like, well, some of them are great. There's also the the pseudo-incestual comment, actually a straightforward sexual comment that he made regarding his daughter, that he asked the audience if they thought she was a sweet piece of ass or not. On top of that, there's the growing fear and concern that a Trump presidency will weaken the U.S.'s military or weaken the U.S.'s ability to defend itself from outside influence by stripping the military, building a wall, cutting off U.S. trade, taking off China, who's the largest importer, as well as being so closely knit with Russia. Although at the moment their relationship has hit a bit of a snag since Putin's like, no, I was not going to come over to your place. You were going to come over to mine. We were going to have some snuggle time. Here's a friendly letter.
Right.
In essence. But Russia, or Putin, has since kind of pseudo-distanced himself from it. And then there's the risk of, if Trump continues to escalate things with the nuclear arms race, which we spent so many years trying to pat down, that he'll eventually start World War III. There is a lot of information to go over here. So, I'm sure that, but on the upside, the stock market went up like 1%. So that's good. So and the question hasn't become why him, because as we all know, he won the election by 306 to Clinton's 260 something. We're not focusing on Clinton anymore. She's old hat, old news. He won the Electoral College, surprisingly, and there's been nonstop protests going on. There's been Republicans, Democrats, and independents alike saying that, well, this is not the guy we need or want in office in protest, because that's
Right, but those are just politicians.
no,
They're not
politicians
actually.
and celebrities and groups of people as well.
Well, yeah, but I wouldn't say celebrities' opinions really matter at all.
Okay, so you're telling me that if FaZe Rain right now went on Twitter and said, "You know what, guys? I'm disbanding. FaZe Clan. It's been a unanimous decision amongst all the leaders of it. Thanks for the years. Fuck off. I'm taking your money." You're telling me that since the leaders of FaZe Clan, FaZe Rain and Rug included, since those guys are considered celebrities, you're telling me that their opinions would not matter to you?
Well, to me personally, no, because I don't keep up with FaZe Clan.
Cool.
But, celebrity, yeah, you're right in that celebrities' opinions matter to people, but, or, like, okay, this is different from what
A bit of a brain fart there. It's cool. Go on.
yeah, this is different from what you're talking about, where he's like disbanding FaZe or whatever and taking their money. But just if a celebrity is to come out and say, "I think Donald Trump is bad," just because they're famous, it doesn't really lend any weight to their argument logically. Obviously, people will listen to them because people listen to celebrities for no reason because they're stupid. But there's no any actor or musician doesn't have any more credit than I do to comment on politics. A politician, as much as I don't like them, they've got more room to talk considering that politics is their job. But, just because you were in a movie, that doesn't really mean you know anything more about Donald Trump than anybody else.
Well, that's the thing with celebrities. A business, let's see, we had an actor become the governor of California for a couple of years before returning to acting in one form or another. And more recently, we had a business tycoon, I'm just going to call him a tycoon, just to summarize things real quickly, who turned his very presence into a reality show host, and therefore became a celebrity through that, who will be sworn in as the 45th President of the United States. So they're following in line with the celebrities that are actors or musicians or gamers or editors or whatever they are, that they, just because they're that classification of job, you're telling me that they don't have as much political insight as the politicians who've been working in that field of study their whole lives, who may have an unbiased view, being an outsider looking in?
Yeah, you're right that they have an outsider view, but so do I. They're not any smarter than I am.
All right. I'll give you that.
But this is kind of not the most important thing that we should be talking about. You said that Donald Trump would actually weaken the United States, and you said that was because of angering China and getting closer with Russia and stripping down the military.
Yeah. In theory, again, everything that I've written was just theories based upon what we've learned so far through the media's reporting of Donald Trump's tweets. I'm actually following Trump not by, favor or anything, just to keep up with what new insightful information he chooses to disclose, so that way I can make more theories based on that. If those theories turn into fact later on down the road, then that's cool. If not, then they're just theories. It's kind of like how after there was a certain section of people who thought Leonardo DiCaprio wouldn't get an Oscar, and then there were those who kept hoping he would, and he eventually would. Those kinds of predictive theories and whatnot. But
Right.
yes, I did say, or I did theorize, that with a Trump presidency, and because of his closeness to Putin, as well as some of the people's closeness to Putin that he's put in his cabinet, that he's opening the doors to a coup by Russia to take over the United States, and how he's further strengthening that is by theoretically stripping down the military strength with the replacement of the F-35s to whatever he said. It was a while back when I read this. By isolating the U.S. by building a wall, or theoretically building a wall, by factually taking off China, by taking a call from Taiwan, which I'm kind of on the level with him about that. Who the fuck is China to tell the U.S. who we can and can't talk to? But there's a whole entire another political puzzle or machinations that maybe we as outsiders looking in don't really understand. And then there's the part of us that says that while yes, this may be the reactionary thing to do to break away from years of standards and how we go about things with world politics, there's
Right.
yeah.
Just to stop you real quick.
Oh, sure.
First of all, I don't really think, the replacement of the F-35 with F-18 variants, that's not really a big deal.
Right.
Because that's only going to come into effect if we actually get into a big war with, Russia or China.
Yep.
Which at that point we're fucked anyway.
Yep.
So I don't think that necessarily matters too much. The other thing about the coup, I think that's just kind of unrealistic. Because, I mean, in all likelihood, if Donald Trump was truly as cozied up with Russia as you're saying he is, wouldn't it be easier for the Russians just to use him as a puppet rather than instigating a coup?
Manchurian candidate kind of deal?
I don't get the analogy.
Okay, so have you heard of the movie The Manchurian Candidate?
Yes.
Okay. And essentially it's a foreign country's sleeper agent put into the path to rise to political power, such as being a senator or being a governor or even a president of the United States. Actually, that was the thing. And so what happened was, I've only heard of it myself, but what the foreign power will do is they'll use that person to slowly but surely enact their overall goal.
Yeah, I just don't think that's true. I don't think that's what's happening, considering I don't think there's no detriment to us cozying up with Russia. Russia is the second or third most powerful country in the world, next to China. So there's really nothing wrong with us getting closer with them.
Well, that's the thing here, okay? So, I need coffee because it's cold in here, and that shit just does not work well with me. Oh, something about week-old coffee that really gets the heart to deathly levels of beating. Okay, that's the thing with cozying up to Russia, though. At first, it's just, it's kind of like slowly getting into a potentially abusive relationship. At first, everything's like, haha, cool, great, that's awesome. But the closer that the woman or man gets to being in a relationship with that person who has an abusive past, the more likely that the abusive person or the abusive part of the relationship will slowly begin to like dominate what that person does, what that person says, who that person can talk to.
Yeah, but I just don't see that happening.
Well, of
Why
course
would that
not.
happen?
I mean, like, everything's warm and fuzzy right now. And like you said, we have differing viewpoints on the matter. And like I said, it's just a theory, a rage and swear-laden filled theory, but theory nonetheless. So we could.
Well, yeah, but that's the thing. It's basically just conjecture because, I mean, maximum Trump's only going to be in office for 8 years. That's really not a lot of time for us to completely do a 180 and become Russia's slave somehow. And now compare this with Hillary Clinton's policy on Russia, which she wanted to create a no-fly zone in Syria, which would have basically been the United States going into a country where we are not welcome, setting up missiles in that country where the Russian military is operating, and then saying to the Russians, you cannot operate here any longer, and if you do, we're going to shoot your planes down. Now, that's basically invasion.
Right.
Invasion, and I mean, they would challenge it, and that would have led to a war. That would be like Russia going to Mexico, setting up military bases, and then setting up missiles and saying American planes can no longer fly over Mexico.
Yeah.
Because that is how close Syria is to Russia. And that's literally what she was going to do. And when she was pressed to answer on that on the debates I was watching, she didn't even answer. She changed the subject. So she basically was asked whether or not she would start World War III by shooting down Russian fighter jets, and then she didn't answer.
All right. You mentioned something earlier because
You might want to get closer to the mic because it's really hard to hear you.
Sorry about that. You mentioned something earlier about Trump only being in office for a year. Personally, do you think that year will end in either impeachment or assassination? Shut the hell up. God damn. Not you, the laptop. How do you personally seeing that theoretical year-long presidency ending?
1 sec. Well, obviously, I guess I can't take assassination off the table. There's always that possibility that somebody would do that. I mean, Abraham Lincoln, JFK were assassinated, so I can't say it's not going to happen. And there's certainly more people that are pissed off at Trump than there are in a lot of previous elections. A lot of people think this is the end of the world, and somebody could do something. But I wouldn't say it's extremely likely, and even if it is, then there's nothing we could have really done to prevent it.
All right.
And in regards of impeachment, I don't think he'll be impeached.
Well,
I don't even know I mean, anybody could be involved in a scandal, but what would he be impeached for? Like, why would he be at a higher risk of it than any president?
Well, any number of things that could be orchestrated against him. Earlier we were talking about the Manchurian candidate aspect, or the pseudo-Manchurian candidate aspect of everything. So possibly, and again, this is all just conjecture, theorizing from things that we think might happen. But what if Russia were to plant, or China were to orchestrate the downfall of his presidency in one fell swoop, either by organizing a scandal, or a scandal so infectious that actually leads to probable cause for a legal case filed against him for something illegal that Trump did that he might not have been aware of at the time, or through an act of treason, such as inadvertently releasing state secrets or whatnot. There's also the possibility of like him having a heart attack or any number of physiological related reasons due to his advanced age. Even though his Dr. Bernstein, I said, crazy looking dude, said that he's pretty much the healthiest man for his age at any that he's ever worked with. But we don't know about that. So there's possibility of assassination, there's possibility of impeachment, there's possibility of treasonous charges, there's possibility of him just like up and kicking the bucket for no apparent reason.
Well, yeah, but see, these things, those aren't specific to Trump. Anybody can die.
Well,
you know, we've had presidents die in office, we've had presidents be impeached, we've had presidents be assassinated. None of that was necessarily because who they were. It was just, if Hillary had been elected, there would have been any number of people on the other side who would have wanted to assassinate her, and she wasn't in any great condition health-wise, and I mean, she was worse off than Trump. You're saying Trump's doctor said she was perfectly healthy, but I mean, we saw multiple videos of Hillary, spasming, or the one video where she collapsed and had to be dragged into a van.
Well, I'm not saying
there was
that
more red flags in regards to health with Hillary than there was with Trump, so that's not really much of an argument there.
Well, that's the thing. It's not because of who they are. It's just because of what their bodies currently individually going through. Like, he could be, like you said, anyone can die for absolutely any reason at all at any time. So that's like an X factor in that theoretical year-long presidency which you've put forth. Anyone can get sick, because she was running such a hard-fought campaign against Trump, who was just hammering out the stops no tomorrow, and her physician asked her if it would, basically told her that you need to stay at home for a few days to recover. And she's like, no, since I'm a woman, or I'm just simplifying this, since I'm a woman and he's a man, I have to work twice as hard to make the same mileage as he would, from him working just half as hard as he normally would.
Do you mean, are you saying that was because people's perception of women and men, or because she's, like, as a woman, naturally prone to becoming tired easier?
I'm saying that based on the societal standards, that...
Well, you see, I wouldn't say that's necessarily true.
I got you. Just let me finish here. I'm saying that because of the, societal fact that, and this is just going to diverge just a little bit, then I'm going to return to the point on hand. And on a side note, this is a much calmer debate than, I originally thought. Okay. I'm stating that because pay-wise, women only get paid 75% more... 75% of what a man would. So, so...
That's been disproven, but
like, based on the past and everything else. Everything's slowly but surely evening out, but it's still there. But it's also the amount that women have to work in order to get the same...
1 second.
All right. Beep, 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 beep.
Anyway, I'm back now.
Alrighty. So there's that whole side of things. Alright, getting back to the original point that yes, she became sick, but while she was sick, she was still campaigning hard. There's also the fact that there's been absolutely non-stop media coverage on Donald Trump's side of the campaign. But not because of stated policies, but because of, the more negative aspects of what he said. I'm not going to go into them. We both know what they are, and that's all fine and dandy. But this leads me into the next thing. Since the media coverage has been about him nearly non-stop since almost the day he actually started campaigning, it took away the public's view on, the majority of the public's view on from his policies to simply the fact that he was trolling other candidates on Twitter. They were focusing more on the negatives than what could possibly become and what it would mean further on down the line should he get elected. And now that he is elected, despite everything that's been said or proven or disproven or yet to be proven, there's going to be a series of backlashes. This is a prediction. A series of backlashes against him.
You're a little quiet again.
Oh, sorry about that. Don't worry. It'll hopefully. There we are. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. Cool. So my question to you is, what would possibly be one of those backlashes in response to him theoretically successfully repealing and replacing Obamacare, since most of his voter base that supports him was on some form of it, and when they get sick or injure themselves or something else, they'll find that they can't because the insurance that they had under Obamacare no longer covers them. So what do you think would be a possible backlash that will happen because of that. Like, and you can go about it any way you want. It's all good.
Look, I don't have much of an answer to this, in all honesty, because I am not on my own healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still on my parents' healthcare, because you could be on your parents' healthcare into your 20s now, and
26.
it's cheaper for me to pay for it like that. So
Yeah.
I don't know much about healthcare. I don't have any health issues, so I really don't have much dealings with any of that. And Obamacare was not one of the convincing reasons either way that I voted for him. So I don't have much to say in that regard.
All right.
At all.
Oh, fun fact. Well, it wasn't like a battle of wits or anything. It was just, I'm actually curious as to like what you personally think will be the ripples, so to speak, of his decision. Also, on a side note, the very fact that you can remain on your parents' health insurance until 26 is actually a part of Obamacare.
Right.
Yeah. So once Donald Trump repeals that aspect of healthcare will be removed, and anyone that's without Trump care, as will be known possibly, anyone that's not on Trump care will have to pay a fine of $10,000.
Well, that's the same. They had to pay a fine with Obamacare if you weren't on it.
Yeah, but it's $10,000 charged directly to the person that's not currently on Trump care.
Look, I don't know much about healthcare.
Okay. That's
if you want, I can talk about foreign policy. I voted for Donald Trump because of his foreign policy and because of his some of his domestic policy.
All right.
I voted on it for him because I thought the stance of ending what Bush was doing and Obama was doing, and that Hillary planned on doing, which is continuing to arm terrorist groups in the Middle East for various reasons. He was going to stop that, put a stop to that. He was also going to, as he said, build the wall, which is more, besides the physical aspect of the wall, it's a metaphor for stopping illegal immigration. And then
he meant that literally.
No, I know. I know. There's the literal wall, but I mean building the wall also in the sense as he's going to put a stop to illegal immigration, which is the point of the wall itself.
Right.
And then other domestic or other foreign policy reasons, such as his position towards Russia and towards a lot of Europe and whatnot.
All right. Okay. Yeah, they're both, yes, the wall, actually. The cost of building a wall 2,000 miles across from Texas to wherever, I'm not sure about the logistics, would cost roughly $15 to $25 billion, and most of that money, or actually a majority of it, a vast majority of it, would come from taxpayers like you and I, which would mean a definite rise in inflation for pay wages, for basic needs, for a bunch of things. Because we would have to pay a higher tax in order to, help fund the construction of it, as well as the maintenance of it.
Well, I am not sure on that, because I know he was going to put a stop to a lot of money hemorrhaging programs that Obama had. But let me present to you this. Okay. The amount of people that come to this country immigration-wise and then are on welfare, it's almost all of them that are on welfare, and that is a lot of money. Not to mention the fact that we are $17 trillion plus in debt with China, and a trillion is 1,000 billion.
Yes.
So I don't think another 25 billion at the most is really much to sacrifice to stopping the tens of millions of people coming into this country illegally.
All right.
You know, our country spends so much money on stupid things like welfare, I'm retarded. Welfare, all sorts of socialist policies like that.
Okay.
And we're not even protecting our own people from the massive demographic shifts and just weight on the system that illegal immigration causes.
So, are you talking about the shrinking social power of the white establishment?
I wouldn't say social power, but just the massive demographic change that we've experienced.
All right.
There are very, very many more people from South America and Central America in this country than there was 10 or 20 years ago, and it's only shifting in that direction. I don't really think that there's any reason that our country should become another Central American country. I think we're fine as we are as America.
All right. Let's see here. Did you know that the number of unauthorized immigrants in the U.S. has stabilized in recent years after decades of rapid growth?
I don't know if I believe that.
All right, so here's an estimate in the millions. Let's see, between 2005 and 2010, there were 12.2 million illegal immigrants that came to the U.S., but that number dropped to 11.1 million by 2014. But the origin of the country's unauthorized immigrants have shifted, with the number from Mexico declining from 2009 and the numbers from elsewhere rising.
Okay.
All right.
Well, that's not stabilization. What you're saying is there was 12 million coming in 2010, 12 million coming in, and then it dropped to 11 million. But that's not the total population in the United States. That's actually just the amount coming in. So that's just a small decrease in the amount that we know about, because it is just an estimate. We don't know how many illegal immigrants there are in this country.
All right. On that point, apparently there were like 11,100,000 unauthorized immigrants from here to forth. I'm just going to shorten it to unauthorized, so that way it saves me time and you time, and there's less irritation on my part. In the U.S. in 2014, which was a total unchanged from 2009, and according to accounting for the 3.5% of the nation's population, the number of unauthorized immigrants peaked in 2007 at 12.2 million, when this group was just 4% of the U.S. population.
So you're saying that they're actually leaving?
Yeah.
They're not. There is illegal immigrants coming into this country, and there's none that are leaving. First, they can't go to any other countries because they're illegal. Canada's not going to let them in, and they're definitely not getting on a boat or a plane to go somewhere else. And they're not going back to their countries, because why would they? They went through all the trouble of coming here.
Yeah.
They would have to then illegally cross back through Mexico and through all those other countries to get to wherever they came from.
All right.
So whatever those statistics you're reading, I don't believe them.
Oh, nice. You were able to pick up that I was reading. Yeah. Going back to what you said earlier about the shrinking white establishment, or what I said and what you led into, what's your opinion about Bill O'Reilly's statement that the left wants to take power away from the white establishment. I mean, we talked about this a little bit, but we kind of got sidetracked.
Well, first of all, I don't really know what you mean by the white establishment. The thing is about the establishment in this country is it's a lot of different groups. There's a lot of very rich people that aren't white and that influence a lot of things. I mean, you have Obama, obviously. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily that he's super rich, but he's very powerful and influential. Yeah. And he will be even after he's out of office. Mm-hmm. And I mean, there's all sorts of people that are in the 1% of this country that are Asian, that are black or Jewish or whatever.
Right.
So the massive base of power in this country isn't necessarily just a fully white thing.
Okay, hold on. There we are.
Now, voting power, yes, there is a lot of voting power behind it because of all this, the regular people that are white that vote, but I don't know if that's what you're talking about.
All right. He stated that this is all about race. The left sees white privilege, not white establishment, white privilege in America as an oppressive force that must be done away with. Therefore, white working class voters must be marginalized. Very few commentators will tell you that the heart of liberalism in America today is based on race. He went on to say, it permeates almost every issue. The white men have set up a system of oppression. That system must be destroyed. Do you think that Donald Trump's anti-establishment way of going about things is meant to break away from the fears that Bill O'Reilly spoke on?
Yeah, I do think he spoke to a lot of those fears. And I do think that the left is going after white people in this country, especially with all sorts of accusations of white privilege and blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. All sorts of indoctrination in public schools and universities, and just affirmative action, giving people who are unqualified jobs just because they're not white. Mm-hmm. And all that stuff. And just the disenfranchisement of the white majority, because white people are always spoken about politically as being the power, even though every new political person panders to Hispanics and blacks, and then they have to pass affirmative action laws and attend anti-racist blah blah blah. And you know, all the power is claimed to be owned by the white people, while it's being given to everybody else.
All right. He's long derided the idea of white privilege as an imaginary concept made up by liberals, argued that by abandoning the Electoral College, that's a weird jump, the Democrats would easily win future races by campaigning in major cities, which have larger concentrations of minority voters, and avoiding white rural communities altogether. He's alright. Okay. I actually have to sit down and eat some dinner. So, would you be interested in continuing this in about 10 to 20 minutes?
Well, I'm going to be heading to bed soon, but we could probably do this another day. It's late where I am. I'm not out in the West.
Alright. Is it like closer to 1 or 2?
It's 11 right now, but I need to get some sleep because I have to get up early tomorrow. We're driving.
Alright, man. Family and all that?
Yes.
Hell yeah! So, the total amount of time we've been talking is about 44 minutes and 35 seconds. So, thank you so much, Maximiser, for this opportunity, and hopefully there will be more like it to talk to you about this very important issue.
Yep, alright, cool. Talk to you later.
Alright, peace.